Now, just a little bit about our organization, Quint, Wellington, Redwood. We're an independent management consulting firm that is dedicated to increasing IT's value to the business. We were established in 1992 over in Amsterdam, so we've been in business for over 20 years, but now we've grown to over 250 consultants globally. We do business in 49 countries on just about every single continent. Our core business practices are sourcing, architecture, governance, lean IT, service management, and DevOps. And we're very proud to say that for 3 years straight, we've been listed as a top global advisor on sourcing and governance by the IAOP, and we continue to be a trendsetter in the areas of IT service management, lean IT, and DevOps. Now we're very lucky to have our presenter today, Niels. He's a principal consultant here with Quint, but he is the content board lead at the Lean IT Association and the chief examiner of Lean IT at APMG. So he definitely knows what he's talking about. I'm glad to have him with us today. Niels, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Alexander. It's nice to be here. Yeah, let's talk about lean IT leadership and how that's going to help you to achieve your transformational goals. What we're basically going to talk about is what is lean IT leadership? What are the steps that you need to develop yourself towards becoming a lean IT leader? And we'll look at some pitfalls and some success strategies. And it's all about basically turning your organization into an organization that delivers real value to customers and at the speed that you want to deliver that value. And again, these tend to be the transformational goals that we see. So let's have a little look at Bob. Bob's a fictional IT manager. Let's say he's a head of infrastructure at an insurance company, for the sake of argument, and he's got 5 teams reporting to him. And Bob's a good guy. He comes into work and he does his best. He really does. He's the kind of guy who he's the go-to guy. He helps people, but somewhere along the line, he's not achieving what he wants to achieve. He's definitely not feeling in control. He's got these teams that are always telling me they're busy, and he just feels like he's 2 steps behind all the time, and he doesn't quite know what everybody's working on. And he cares for his people, and he wants them to develop, but he doesn't really know whether they're actually developing effectively. And this is really a situation that you see a lot in IT management. Bob's just out there really working hard. I mean, I see IT managers working really hard, but they're just not getting the results they're actually looking for. Okay, and part of the problem is that Bob grew up in the traditional kind of leadership paradigm, our Western leadership paradigm, which is you've got a budget, you've got to work to that financial plan, and by the way, we want quick results, and you've got to work on everything at the same time, and we try to achieve these quick results, but because you're working on everything at the same time, you don't actually achieve the quick results. The idea is to climb the ladder rapidly and get your results. It doesn't matter what else, just make sure you get your results, and get your people to push your people hard, and then you'll achieve your goals. And Bob is increasingly frustrated with this way of working, and he's taken some time and learned that there's maybe another way, and that's through lean leadership. And lean leadership works more with patience, with focusing on the true north vision of the organization. In some cases, we don't even have it yet. But so looking at this vision and making sure that also the leaders start learning and earn their way up the ladder through the learning, through deep learning. These are things that are very important, and it's all about making sure that we're getting the processes right so that they consistently deliver the right results. And as we deliver the right results, as we create the right processes, we need to improve these processes, and this helps us to develop our people. And this is a different paradigm that we tend to have generally. And leadership's interesting because, to all intents and purposes, it's a kind of art. I mean, it's related to how you are as a person, and with all artists, they need tools. They need to know what to do. It's not just having a flair and a charisma. It's also based on just hard graft in terms of understanding the tools that will help you to be successful. And this is where lean leadership really helps leaders to become more confident in the way they deal with teams, the way they deal with individuals. But it does require learning. It's learning through understanding standards, developing them, and building new standards. And we have these tools, which I'll talk about in a minute, that help to develop the leadership within an organization. Okay, so let's just have a little look at Bob's journey in lean IT leadership, and I'd like to talk to you about the kind of leadership tracks that we do with management teams, how we take them through a series of steps, learning tools, learning how to act, and enabling them to actually create the results that they're looking. Bob found that he could learn lean leadership, and we use a model that was developed by Jeffrey Leica, which is you can read about it in one of his books. It basically starts with the leader aiming for a self-development, so actually committing to developing themselves. And we have a tool that goes with that. It's what we call leader standard work. I'll talk about that in a minute. The next step is that the leader needs to help others to develop. He needs to make sure that the people in the team are developing themselves as individuals, but also developing leadership skills. And the key tool here is the Gemba walk. And Gemba is all about the place where work is done. Okay, so when you hear Gemba walk, we're talking about walking around the place where people do work. The third step is making sure that we continuously improve, and that's self-improvement, but it's also improvement in the organization. It's stimulating improvement, and to do that we need structured problem solving, and we'll discuss this in a little while. Last but certainly not least, in fact, this is sometimes the step where we start, is to define the vision and goals and how you're going to communicate within the organization. And for that, we really need our visual management tool. Okay, so these are the things that Bob has kind of found, and it's about putting this into practice. Now, the first step is actually more difficult than you think. Maybe even this is the most difficult step, because it's about committing to self-development. And it's quite easy when we get together as a management team for the first time, and we look at each other straight in the eyes and say, are you prepared to commit to self-development? The first reaction is, yep, we're going to do that. Yep, we're really pumped up to do this. But then you find as we go along the process that it is quite a difficult commitment to live up to. Okay? You need to make sure that you've got a coach, and you need to practice. And when it's about, what I mean about practice is purposeful practice. It's really being aware of the practice that you're doing at that moment in time. And one of the things we've learned is that it's very important to look for those triggers to learn. And there are three, there are multiple triggers, but there are three that we would like to use, and that is when you see that you're doing something different than you planned to do in your leader standard work. This is a really clear trigger. Why did this go differently than I'd planned? And what can I learn from this? Others are obviously feedback from the workflow, from the Gemba, and the other is what we call the Kaizen mindset. And I'll come to that in a minute. So when we talk about developing leaders, we talk about a T-type profile, which has a stem in which a leader has a experience and really deep understanding in a particular technical area. So we want lean IT leaders to have some kind of affinity with the technology. Okay, so these are things that are quite important to ensure. We then need to start developing the leader by giving them exposure to all kinds of other areas in the organization where they may not have the technical skills, but they can understand what's going on based on their original technical skills. Okay, so when we start giving them exposure in other areas, we're really asking them to focus much more on motivation, on team building, on listening, coaching, and making sure that the team actually performs rather than that they cause the success to happen. Okay, so this is really the important thing that leaders must do, and they must develop high potential people into leaders. Now, whether these people end up in the hierarchy, that's not the point. It's about them developing a leadership position. This may be from a technical speciality. Okay, so this leader standard work stuff, what does this look like? Well, it's basically about making sure that there are key things that need to be done on a day, week, or monthly basis, and sometimes quarterly basis. And it's about defining what you need to do. IT managers let their days be dictated by whatever comes along. And by using leader standard work, you can structure your work and make sure that you retain space in your agenda to actually improve performance capabilities of the IT organization. And we found if you don't do this, you end up with a filled agenda from morning till night, and no room to actually improve. The next step is that once we've decided that we've committed to self-development, we've created our leader standard work, so we've got ourselves a structure for our days and weeks. Then in this structure we build in a time that we're planning to go out there and help to develop. And there's in Toyota there's a fabulous little statement about leadership, and that's basically go see, ask why, show respect. If you do these three things, if you keep these 6 words in your mind when you go out onto the work floor, you will really be able to practice lean leadership. It's so simple but so important to use these 3 aspects. And what do we mean? Go see, observe, look at what's going on, listen to what's going on, and ask questions as to why things happen the way they happen, and do this respectfully. This is really what lean instills in its leaders. And one of the great things is when I start talking to managers, IT managers, about going down to the work floor, going to have a look around and talking to people, they kind of first look at me in a kind of scared way, saying, well, yeah, but what am I actually going to do down there? And my first thing is to say, go see, ask why, show respect, and just start by listening. Listen to what they're saying and respond, and ask questions. But what we then start saying, once they've done that, you can start using your Gemba walks to provide support, to help with removing obstacles. You can also use the Gemba walk to teach people things like how to do problem solving properly, or how to use the key performance indicators, or how to carry out a day start properly, or a daily stand-up. Or you're also there as an IT manager to actually promote your vision of where the organization is going. And remember, this is something you need to remind people of continuously. You may have told them the same thing last week, but they want to hear that you're still on the same course. So that those promotional activities are very, very vital when you do your Gemba walk. Okay, step 3 is all about continuous improvement. And here we're talking about the Kaizen mindset. Well, the Kaizen mindset is that desire to see and prioritize problems, that it's subsequently to solve them and to share lessons learned. And this is more difficult than it sounds, especially when you've come from the traditional Western style of management. You'll see that a lot of managers are used to hearing great stories, the successes, and they don't want to hear about the problems. You've probably all known a leader somewhere along the line who say, well, don't bring me problems, bring me solutions. These are things that stifle people, that stop them from really looking at what's going on and looking at those problems and trying to tackle them. And your role as a Lean IT leader is to make sure that there's a short time between the identification of the problem and finding that solution. I know we say 5 minutes here, but they're maybe a little bit short, especially for larger problems. But it's all about stimulating the resolution of problems and seeing that as something that we can actually build a mindset on. And that mindset is all about continuous improvement. If you stimulate people to solve problems on a daily basis, they will turn that into a habit. And there are really 2 ways that leaders can encourage continuous improvement. The obvious one is this thing called improvement Kaizen. And improvement Kaizen is all about getting a group of people together and giving them a quite difficult problem to solve where the solution isn't obvious. And usually it takes some days and sometimes weeks to actually solve. But the really important way that leaders can encourage continuous improvement is through daily Kaizen. And daily Kaizen is about looking for those little problems, those little irritating problems that can be solved by creating a script or creating a decent checklist or a standard operating procedure. These are the small things, and there are loads of them. There are loads of them in IT organizations. You go to an average daily stand-up and you will hear those little problems that irritate people. And as a leader, you can stimulate people to basically say, tackle it. Make sure that the team reserves a little bit of time in maybe the afternoon, that one of the team members is that we cover for one of the team members, and they can spend an hour or 2 hours actually just solving that problem. And we're talking about simple problems here. We're not talking about the big stuff. But again, it's about creating that dynamic within the organization that people turn this into a habit. Lastly, we come back we come down to the vision side, communicating goals, aligning goals. You need visual management. A Lean IT leader will always use visual management. Why? Because you then know what's going on in the organization. You actually know what a team is doing. You can see on a board. You don't need to wait for somebody else to tell you what's going on in the team. You can see it yourself. And we use visual management to visualize continuous improvement, to communicate particular choices or decisions. We use it to balance workload, and we put our key performance indicators up on the wall so that we can see how we're performing. And we refresh our visual management on a daily basis, so there's always something new to look at. Okay, so this is vital stuff. When we do our visual management, and when we have our discussions with the teams about the performance, we use a particular tool called a performance dialogue. And a performance dialogue basically consists of 3 key elements. It's about talking about the objectives, taking all the work into account. So we're not just talking about somebody saying, well, why didn't you get the change in on time? We're talking about, okay, I understand you had a change to do, you had a number of incidents, you had some other stuff to do, and putting that all together, we see that maybe you didn't achieve the goals, or well done, you did achieve the goals. So we're discussing those objectives. We're offering support where they may be, where the team or the person may be experiencing problems or impediments. And we're giving feedback on how we feel the team or the individual team member is doing. Okay, and this is an important skill for Lean IT leaders to master. And it's not difficult. In fact, none of these tools are difficult. They just require practice, purposeful practice, where you're clear on what you're trying to achieve and that you're clearly trying to practice these tools. And leadership is then about making sure that the organization actually takes steps. So we can have these tools, we can have all these ideas, we can have all these structures in place, but we then need to make sure that the organization is helped to transform to achieve the goals that we're looking for. And as I said, those goals have to do with more value for customers, quicker, and more first-time right. So making sure we're not providing defective products. And the general structure of a transformation would be that we would always start with lean leadership. Always start with getting the leaders in place and understanding what they need to do to move their team towards a continuously improving organization. Then we would go into a transformation phase in which we would, surely for larger organizations, we would do that in waves, where we're looking at maybe, depending on the size of the organization, between 50 and maybe 200 people per wave, and slowly move through the organization. Now, in a wave, it's very important for organization, for the people who are going through that wave to be connected in some way or another, so that they can help each other to go through the transformation and then move on to a situation where they're continuously improving. Transformation, a wave takes about 12 weeks to start building the habits, and then in continuous improvement we start making those habits stick. Is it a fun journey? Is it easy? Well, it's a great fun journey. It's a very challenging, fulfilling journey that you go through. But yes, it does have its bumpy moments, its difficult moments. People will say, what a waste of time, let's not do this. And as a leader, you really need to have clear in your mind why you want to do this and what you aim to achieve when you get to a state of lean IT. You've implemented the lean IT principles into your organization. And the key thing here is that Bob or whatever leader needs to have a change story to engage the team in this transformation. Change story is really the last tool we're going to actually talk about. It's a vital little story that leaders tell, that give the teams, the organization direction and urgency. It's always a personal story that is focused on explaining something to the team, to the people who are being led by this leader. And this is the key aspect, is that it's a source of continuity. So when you get into those difficult periods, you have the story that tells you why you're doing this this actual transformation. So we've seen that we've done a number of these transitions, and we can have a look at what happens when Bob's gone through this. What does it actually look like? Well, Bob has adopted lean, he's understood the lean principles, and he's created this daily routine for himself. What you see is that there are spaces in the in his daily routine where he has standard things that he does, and other times that are open so that he can respond to any need that actually happens. So a morning would be quite simple. He'd have some personal time to basically look into maybe his own improvement goals for the day, but also look at his numbers, look at the ideas or the key performance indicators, and see how the team has done or how the teams are doing. He'll do go and join a day start with a team, check his email, and then go for a Gemba walk. And that means walking around the department, potentially going to a department that needs a bit of special attention, or just going around all of his departments, looking at the day boards, looking at the week boards, understanding what's going on. So using that visual management. Again, maybe check your email, check the email before lunch, have a bit of lunch, and then in the afternoon, maybe Bob will have identified an individual team member who needs to have some help, or would go to the team and help to look for improvements. Maybe there's a period of time that he consult the team on particular policy decisions, and at the end of the day, it always just check: did I carry out my day and my work in the way that I planned to do using leader standard work, and understand whether is learned enough. And what we see is that managers and team leaders who go through this process feel much more in control. They really understand how to help their teams achieve their goals, and they end up wasting less time and energy on pointless things that aren't helping them to achieve their operational goals principally, but also their transformational goals. So generally speaking, we see that lean IT leaders are much more relaxed in and confident in the way they're steering the organization. One of the important aspects, obviously, is to learn throughout this Lean IT leadership track. It's all about learning, but it starts obviously with a bit of training. And these are the Lean IT Association's training curricula, and I can recommend those very strongly. That's really all I wanted to talk to you about today. Are there any questions, Alex?
Yes, Niels, thank you. And I just want to remind everyone before we begin here, there are already a couple questions, but this is an open forum, so please feel free to add a question if something inspires you. So we'll jump in with the first one here, which is, how will Bob's schedule be managed when there is a serious service issue or critical outages?
Yeah, that's an interesting one, isn't it? We have this tendency to think that Bob is the guy who's got to jump in and start running around and solving stuff. But in fact, Bob is the last person who needs to do that. He should make sure that his team knows what to do and is there. That he's there to remove any obstacles that are in the way. So he's got space in his agenda. Obviously, he's got flexibility to deviate from his leader standard work if he needs to. But the most important thing is that he just checks with the team how they're doing and whether they need help from him. So it's again a lot less frantic. It's more about being aware of what's going on, letting the team do their work, but being there to remove obstacles if necessary.
Okay, and we have one right here. How would I do the Gemba walk if I have a virtual team across the world?
That's one of the big questions. It's we see this a lot more happening a lot more. It starts with making sure that there is a good visual management support for the team. So making sure that a virtual team really understands the work and what's going on. And as a leader, you will need to be acutely aware of what is on the visual management boards, and you will need to ask the right questions about what's going on. We do strongly recommend that if you have virtual teams, that you do get them together, maybe twice a year, 3 times a year. If you have the budget, 4 times a year. It's vital that for a team to function correctly, for them to see each other, to interface with each other, in person to person. And as a leader, you must be there to see what's happening, to help them, and to really listen to what their problems are. So it's a challenge. Use the technology that you have. Get good quality links. Make sure that you have good video links, and that will help you quite a long way. But it's never quite like a Gemba walk with a team that's in the next room.
Understood. All right, and this one here, Niels, is how do I break the silos of specialization in order to follow the flow? I have 20 developers to manage.
Yeah, the easiest way to break the silo is basically to not leave your developers in one room, but to send them out and get them working with the people who work with the application that they're developing. So it's very important to create virtual links with the teams, with other people who are actually working with this application. And I know this is quite a difficult thing to do, but you don't actually need to change the hierarchy or the organizational structure. It's just about stimulating the developers to get out and go and work. Go and sit with people who are also working with these applications, and you'll find that the silos slowly dissipate when you do this, because people actually enjoy working with other people who are working on the same thing. Putting 20 developers together who don't actually work on the same application doesn't make sense. We do that because we think it's normal to put developers next to each other. But I'd rather see one or more developers getting out there and talking to other people.
All right, and that's actually the last one that we had today, Neil. So we'll go ahead and wrap things up.
Okay.
Yeah. So I just want to remind everyone that if you would like some more information on Lean IT, DevOps, and other IT methodologies, please check out our website. It's www.quintgroup.com. Specifically in the Knowledge Center, we have plenty of white papers, articles, and other material on Lean IT and more. Again, that's just quintgroup.com. I just want to touch on a couple of the knowledge communities that we're a part of. Obviously, Niels, we touched on the Lean IT Association and their associated trainings a little bit in the presentation. That website is leanitassociation.com, where you can learn all about it and the qualification scheme as well. And I also want to point out we're also part of DASA, which has newly formed. Quint helped form the DevOps Agile Skills Organization, where we've we're creating a qualification program similar to what Lean IT and LEDA is, and that one's DevOpsAgileSkills.org. And last off, if you enjoyed today's session and you'd like to know maybe how to get started, or there's something on your mind that you maybe want to discuss about, go ahead and schedule just a quick expert session with Quint. You can even request Niels. I know he'd be more than happy to talk with you about Lean IT and more. Just go ahead and reach out to us, and we'll be following up with an email with the recording and whatnot as well. There are some of the methods to contact us. We're also active on just about every single social media channel. Please go ahead and follow us on there, and that's where you can see plenty of announcements, such as webinars that we'll be putting on in the future, new white papers and other material, and other announcements as well. I just want to thank everyone again for joining us today. Wherever you are around the world, enjoy the rest of your day.